Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Our mission today, well, it's simple on the surface, but the stakes, they couldn't be higher. We're separating cybersecurity facts from the really dangerous fiction that defines too many digital defense strategies right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've looked at the latest research, and honestly, it shows that the relying on old assumptions creates these huge blind spots in how we protect ourselves online.
That's spot on. Think of this whole thing as maybe a security reality check. Because the threats are evolving unbelievably fast. We're talking AI-driven attacks, really complex supply chain infiltrations, new exploits popping up constantly, things we didn't even imagine 6 months ago.
Wow.
Yeah. So we have to close this massive gap between what people think protects them, a basic firewall, simple antivirus, and the sophisticated multi-layered approach that genuine defense demands today. We just can't afford to fight yesterday's war, not with yesterday's tools.
Okay, let's dive in then. Let's unpack this, starting with maybe the biggest delusion of all, the oldest one. The idea that our network perimeter is, well, safe. We've kind of been taught that the typical firewall is this impenetrable fortress, right? But is it really the ultimate barrier we imagine, especially now with how fast things are changing?
Well, it's interesting because historically, yeah, absolutely, it was the front line, no question.
Right.
Now, against a really sophisticated attack, whether you're talking home user or big enterprise. Honestly, it's more like a speed bump. It still does essential filtering, basic traffic in and out, sure. But its role as the definitive security layer, that's basically evaporated.
Why? Why has it vanished like that? If firewalls are better than ever, technically, why aren't they enough anymore?
Because the whole attack surface shifted. The critical vulnerability isn't always some technical flaw in the firewall itself anymore.
Okay.
The vast majority of modern breaches, they bypass the firewall completely. They exploit the human factor, which is already inside the perimeter.
So people.
Exactly. Attackers use social engineering, phishing emails, fake calls, you name it, to trick an employee or, any user into running malicious code. Once that person clicks, the bad traffic starts inside the network. The firewall just sits there and watches the data walk right out the front door.
And we see the proof of this, don't we? On a massive scale, in corporations.
Oh, definitely.
We read about these huge supply chain attacks hitting major organizations, companies spending, billions on the latest perimeter tech. If the firewall's this fortress, why are these huge breaches happening through, third-party vendors and just human mistakes?
It perfectly exposes that whole myth of the fortress, doesn't it? A supply chain attack, for instance, often exploits a weakness in a trusted partner, someone who already has credentials to get into the network.
Right, they have the keys already.
Exactly. So the perimeter security is just irrelevant when the attacker basically walks in through the service entrance. The network is only ever as strong as its weakest human link, or maybe the least secure vendor it trusts.
That leads perfectly into our next big challenge, what we call the password paradox. We're always told, use complex, unique, super long passwords. And yeah, they're essential for basic hygiene, but they create so much user friction, right? It's this constant battle between making things easy and making them secure.
And that conflict is a huge vulnerability in itself. The friction means people reuse passwords, or worse, they store them insecurely somewhere. But here's the bit people often miss. Even if you have a perfect, unique password, it gets compromised all the time in these massive data breaches.
Well, ones you might not even hear about.
Exactly. You might never know until your details are up for sale on the dark web. The sheer volume of stolen data just makes even strong passwords feel like, temporary defenses at best.
So the natural response to that weakness is multi-factor authentication, MFA. Everyone says you need it.
You absolutely do.
We know we need it. But you mentioned earlier that even MFA has weaknesses now because threats are evolving so fast. What kind of weaknesses are we seeing?
MFA is critical, let's be clear. Everyone should use it. However, attackers are relentlessly innovative. They're targeting that second factor. We're seeing stuff like SIM swapping, tricking the phone company to steal your number and get your SMS codes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, or even more common now is MFA prompt bombing. Sometimes called MFA fatigue. Attackers just flood your phone with push notifications, hoping you'll get annoyed and just accidentally hit approve.
Just to make it stop.
Right. They're getting really clever at bypassing that second step using psychology.
So, okay, if passwords are only temporary shields and MFA is being actively undermined, where does authentication go next? What's the real evolution here? What's genuinely stronger?
We're moving, and pretty decisively, I think, towards authentication that verifies who you are, not just what you know or even what you have. The future really is passwordless. It's driven by things like biometrics and behavioral analytics.
Like fingerprints or Face ID.
Yes, but even more robustly, systems like FIDO, that's fast identity online. FIDO uses these cryptographically secure keys stored right on your device to authenticate you. It cuts out the password entirely, and it's designed to be resistant to phishing.
So it's about your physical presence almost, not just something you remember.
Exactly. And then you layer on behavioral analytics. This tech monitors how you interact, typing speed, mouse movements, even where you log in from typically. It spots anomalies. It creates this kind of continuous authentication loop.
Interesting. Okay, let's pivot slightly. Let's talk about a tool lots of listeners probably use and trust for privacy day to day. VPNs, virtual private networks. The promise seems so clear. Encrypts your traffic, masks your location, gives you a private tunnel.
That is absolutely the promise. And look, VPNs are vital tools in certain situations, no doubt. But the reality, it can be a bit of a double-edged security sword.
How?
Well, just having an encrypted tunnel isn't enough if the company running that tunnel is dodgy or gets compromised itself. Many VPN providers operate under questionable legal jurisdictions. Or worse, they might secretly log user data even when they claim no logs.
Right. The no-log claim isn't always true.
It's not always verifiable. And if that provider gets breached, all that data you thought was private is suddenly exposed.
You mentioned questionable jurisdictions. Why should the average person care where their VPN company is based?
Because of these international intelligence sharing agreements, like the Five Eyes, Nine Eyes, 14 Eyes alliances, if your VPN provider is based in one of those countries, they could potentially be legally forced by government agencies to log your data or hand over whatever they have.
Which completely undermines the whole point.
Totally. It just shows that security isn't only about the tech itself, it's also about the governance, the legal framework around that tech.
So for someone listening who relies on a VPN, maybe for work, maybe just for privacy on public Wi-Fi, what's the practical takeaway? Should we just ditch them?
No, not necessarily, but you absolutely have to do your homework. Extreme due diligence. A VPN is only ever one layer in a proper security strategy. Use them when needed, public Wi-Fi is a great example, but choose reputable audited services. Look for companies that have actually proven their no-logs policy through independent third-party audits.
Okay.
And remember, they encrypt your traffic, yes, but they do not stop you from clicking a malicious link or downloading malware once you're inside that tunnel.
Good point. Okay, let's move to the original cornerstone of security, antivirus software. We all grew up thinking AV was the ultimate shield. What's the big unavoidable flaw in that traditional signature-based thinking?
The flaw is baked right into its design. It's fundamentally reactive. Traditional antivirus only catches threats after they've been identified, analyzed, cataloged, and added to a signature database.
So it's always looking in the rearview mirror.
Exactly. By definition, it's always playing catch-up. It's basically useless against a brand new, never-before-seen attack, a zero-day threat.
Which means an attacker just needs one successful new piece of malware to potentially hit thousands, maybe millions, before the defenders even know what hit them.
Precisely. And that delay is just unacceptable today, especially when you have AI that can potentially generate new, shifting malware variants faster than humans can possibly catalog them. The whole focus has shifted really to proactive threat hunting and EDR, endpoint detection and response solutions.
EDR. What's the main difference between that and the old AV?
Okay, so traditional AV looks at static files, compares them to a list of known bad stuff. EDR, on the other hand, it watches what's happening, process, activity, system behavior in real time. It's definitely heavier on resources, but it gives you crucial context.
Like what?
Like if a normally trusted application suddenly starts trying to access tons of sensitive files it never touched before or messes with critical system settings, EDR flags that instantly as suspicious behavior. It doesn't matter if there's a known signature for the specific malware payload or not. It sees the bad action.
And this is where AI comes back in.
This is exactly where AI-powered protection becomes essential. Because the threats are evolving so fast. Machine learning algorithms are critical now because they can analyze these huge streams of behavioral data. They spot zero-day exploits, totally new attack patterns before any signature exists. They predict the attack based on strange behavior rather than just reacting to something already known.
That shift from reaction to prediction, that feels like the key theme here for modern defense. So for organizations, maybe even advanced users, what are the key proactive things we need to be doing now?
Yeah, the modern defense stack has several key pillars. First, you absolutely need solutions using behavioral analysis. watching those system patterns, not just signatures. Second, you need continuous network monitoring to spot weird activity immediately and hopefully insulate it. Stop unauthorized traffic from just sneaking past.
Makes sense.
Third, and this is totally non-negotiable, automated updates and real-time threat intelligence feeds. You have to keep everything patched constantly.
And what about that element we keep circling back to? The people.
Critically important. You have to invest in really good, engaging security awareness training.
Right.
This isn't just ticking a compliance box anymore. It's about genuinely strengthening that human firewall against social engineering, against phishing. All the fancy EDR in the world won't stop someone from willingly giving away their password if they're tricked.
Which brings us neatly to the cloud. This feels like where that shared responsibility idea gets really fuzzy and dangerous.
Yeah.
Lots of companies moved data to big providers, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, thinking maybe that they handed off the whole security headache. What's the actual deal?
Yeah, that's probably the biggest cloud misconception, thinking it's just someone else's problem now. The reality is the shared responsibility model, and understanding this division is absolutely crucial.
Yeah, write it down.
The cloud provider, Amazon, Microsoft, whoever, they secure the infrastructure. Think physical security of the data centers, the servers, the core network, the virtualization layer underneath everything. That's their job.
Right.
But securing your data, the applications you build or run, and importantly, your configurations within the cloud, that remains 100% your responsibility as the user or the company.
So if I upload my files, the provider ensures the server building doesn't, burn down.
Exactly.
But it's my job to make sure the virtual door to my files isn't left wide open.
Precisely. Think of it like renting a really secure apartment building. The landlord provides the strong walls, the secure foundation, the roof that doesn't leak. That's the infrastructure. But you are responsible for locking your apartment door, deciding who gets a key, and managing what you put inside your apartment. That's your data, your apps, your configurations.
And that's why misconfigurations are such a big deal in the cloud.
Huge deal. If you accidentally leave a storage bucket public or configure access rules incorrectly, that vulnerability is entirely on you. Understanding identity and access management, IAM, properly managing who can access what, is probably the single most critical piece of your cloud security puzzle.
Okay, this sounds like companies need a whole new set of tools just to manage their side of the bargain. Can you quickly define some of these newer, maybe less familiar cloud-native security tools? Things are evolving fast here too, right?
Absolutely. The need for automated oversight is driving innovation. So first, you have CSPM platforms, that's Cloud Security Posture Management.
CSPM, got it.
These tools constantly scan your entire cloud setup. They look for misconfigurations, compliance violations, basically making sure you didn't leave that virtual door unlocked. It's mostly about static policy checking. Second, there are CWPP solutions, cloud workload protection platforms. These are different. They focus on runtime security, protecting things like containers and serverless functions while they are actually running.
So more dynamic.
Exactly. They complement CSPM by looking at active threats within the workloads themselves. And finally, something really cutting edge and increasingly necessary is DSPM technology, data security posture management. This is all about automatically discovering, classifying, and protecting your sensitive data, no matter where it lives or moves across all your different cloud services. It helps you answer, where is my critical data and who can actually touch it?
It's clear the tech defenses are getting super complex, super specialized. But honestly, almost every section of this deep dive keeps pulling us back to the same core vulnerability, the human element. It just seems to remain the primary target. Phishing, ransomware, they always seem to exploit our psychology.
They absolutely do, because frankly, employees are often the path of least resistance for a cybercriminal. If you boil down all the breach reports, all the incident data, the core truth is unavoidable. The most sophisticated technology in the world just cannot compensate for human error. Security is fundamentally a people problem that we often disguise as a technology problem.
Which means we really need to shift how we think about security training. It can't just be that boring annual video nobody pays attention to.
No way. It has to be seen as the truly essential defense layer it has become. People-centered security needs to be embedded in the company culture.
Okay.
Honestly, the most powerful tools you have aren't the firewalls or the EDR systems. They're things like personal responsibility, employees understanding their own digital footprint, practicing good basic cyber hygiene consistently.
Because if your people can spot that phishing email,
You've just neutralized the single most common attack vector instantly, before any tech even needs to get involved.
So wrapping this up, this deep dive really confirms it. Security isn't some static product you buy off the shelf. It's a dynamic, layered, honestly, a behavioral system. And it's constantly battling this exponential rate of change AI threats, new ways to exploit MFA, the complexities of shared cloud responsibility. We just have to ditch those old myths of static, set it, forget it protection.
Exactly right. We started off noting how often breaches hinge on human error, not
Right.
just clever tech exploits. We've kind of synthesized that down to the best tech can't make up for human mistakes. So maybe here's the final thought, the provocative question for everyone listening, especially if you control budgets.
Okay?
If your technical defenses are effectively useless without a strong human firewall, how effectively are you really investing in training and empowering your people compared to the sheer amount of money you spend on the technology itself? Is that balance right?
That's a crucial question, a real call for reevaluating priorities in this digital age. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into what truly protects us. Now go secure your life with action, not just outdated assumptions.